A few weeks ago, I shared with you my photo storage and backups process and how the Synology DS1618 Plus fits into it. Synology was kind enough to send the unit to me so that I could show you some of the benefits. The DS1618 Plus has gotten me now fully into a RAID 6 configuration for my backups of all of my work for multiple computers. Their hardware supports RAID 6 among other RAID options. I chose RAID 6 because it allows for 2 drive failures and it is a proven industry standard solution. Now that I'm fully up and running, I wanted to share with you how it's going and also answer the questions that many of you sent me along the way. And I also wanted to share some of the processes that you all shared. By the way, I have some more plans with Synology. I actually talked through it in Member Monday this week, which is my weekly show for members only. If you aren't a member, check out the join button below, or if you don't see that, there is a link in the description below. My members, well, they keep me up and running here, so I always give them the inside scoop. Okay, let's get on with it. For starters, it's going great with my new system. Setup of the Synology unit was easy, from installing the drives through configuring the DS1618 Plus as a network drive. It's plugged directly into the back of my router, and then my various computers can see it via Wi-Fi as a shared drive on my network. For my main use, second time machine for my Mac Mini file server, it was super simple to add it as a second time machine drive, and it was quickly getting busy on doing the initial full 5 terabyte backup of my main file store. The first backup took a few days, but once it was done, the incremental backups usually take only a few minutes and they happen automatically. To be clear, this is a drive on your network that acts as a time machine because I configured it that way. If you use a PC or other backup solution besides Time Machine, the Synology unit will support that as well. Overall, getting it up and running and keeping me backed up it's been uneventful. And with my backups, that is how I want them. The only time backups should be exciting is when they save the day. Every normal day should be uneventful, with my backups just quietly happening in the background. Now on to your questions and comments. The most popular question by far was various variations of the question, how can I get started and is it complicated? The most important thing, whether a Synology solution is what you're using or a different one, is to actually get started. By that I mean, you definitely want to take some time strategizing, but be careful of analysis paralysis. There are definitely pros and cons to nearly any method, but the biggest problem is if you have no method at all. For Synology units, you need the Synology device and then some drives. For RAID 6, like I implemented, you need a minimum of 4 hard drives with all the same capacity. Other RAID arrangements may require fewer drives, but lack the ability to tolerate any 2 drives failing at once. Patrick comments that he uses a Synology network attached storage unit, but he finds that the transfer is slow. So what he does is he backs up to a local SSD, which I'll bet is blazing fast. And then he uses the USB connection of the Synology unit to back up the SSD. I think that's clever. That way, Patrick gets the super fast backup to the SSD, and then he uses the Synology as a storage tank, taking advantage of its strength, which is safe data storage. Patrick also comments that there are a number of applications available for Synology NASs that will help you do cloud-based backups automatically. And yes, in case I didn't mention that, in the original video that I made, Synology actually does have apps that you can just install them on the unit through the browser-based interface, and they can help you out that way. RV4X40 comments that he or she does have a very similar process to mine. One thing that they mention is that they use the Synology as storage for the initial pull from their memory cards. And I think that's actually very clever because right away they're getting the fail-safe advantages of RAID rather than jumping through multiple potential failure points along the way prior to getting the advantages of RAID. And they also commented that they live and work in a motorhome and they're doing their entire process wirelessly, which is great, and I'm a little bit jealous. Paul mentions that a second NAS in a separate location would allow for a nightly offsite backup, which is definitely a good idea. Honestly, when your data is important, you can't have too many copies, and that includes cloud and multiple locations that you control. Calvin says that he uses more modest models of Synology RAID arrays, and they do have plenty of choices. Calvin says that he uses separate arrays for RAW and JPEG, which is another neat idea that kind of spreads things around a bit. Dr. HWO is also using a second Synology in a remote location for improved security. And it has allowed the doctor to skip cloud services because they are effectively running their own cloud. Cool. Fred has a process similar to mine, except he has automated the upload process to Amazon Unlimited. And I do think that there's something to be said for that because it prevents you from forgetting to do that cloud upload. I think for me, I'm just a control freak and I like to see the cloud backup physically happening. I'm kind of paranoid that I will find out when it's too late that the cloud backups stopped for some reason if they were being done automatically. Steve makes an absolutely fabulous point. He says to make sure that you actually test your file recovery process, whatever your individual process is, so that if and when you need to recover anything, you're practiced with the recovery. Because file recovery can be stressful, so if you've got at least some muscle memory going for you, it can definitely keep you at ease during the process. Craig comments that he subscribed, yay, and that this was a much needed video for many of us. I agree. I mean, it's not nearly as much fun to talk about backups rather than the newest camera or drone, but without backups, a lot of your work can be lost. Simon asks if the Synology setup is expensive. Well, it can or it can't be, depending on what you go for. Their more modest solutions start for under $200 for a 2-drive unit, and still under $1,000 for a unit that will support 8 big honking hard drives. And you can go with 12 drives for not much more. Now that's the price without drives, but you can choose drive sizing to fit your budget while still taking advantage of the redundancy that their solutions offer. Brian mentions that there is a Synology app that will automatically sync to Amazon for me. I do love that there are apps, and I think I've resolved to at least try out the automated cloud backup while I've been sitting here talking. I just want to make sure that I keep a close eye on it so that I can feel like I'm in control of the process. I'll keep you guys updated on that. Stuart mentions that there's a vulnerability in my process between trips to my offsite backup, and he's correct. My offsite backups happen probably about once every 2 weeks, and I back up to Amazon about once per month. So there's definitely room for me to tune things up a bit and to take advantage of some of those automated features. And as was mentioned earlier, a second Synology unit offsite would keep me up to date in both locations in near real time. Michael comments that he uses a Drobo, which is cool, and that he uses Carbon Copy Cloner, which copies his main drive to a backup automatically at the end of the day. I don't know all the details of Michael's process, but one thing for all of us to remember is that there are different types of backup solutions. For me, I would be nervous about a simple clone because then if I accidentally deleted a folder of images, it would get cloned that way and I might lose the files on my backup. That's one reason why I like Time Machine and similar solutions, is that they keep track of your files even when deleted so that you can roll back to prior snapshots of your storage when needed. I rarely need that capability, but it has saved my neck a couple of times. Ray has recovered photos for many people professionally, and he asks them one important question during the process: where is your last backup? And Ray says that they never have one. there's definitely a lesson in that for us all, I think. Jinx0192 asks a relevant question about digitizing 35mm negatives and slides. It's relevant because let's not forget about backups for our old school material. I do have a flatbed scanner that has a backlight and a slide holder, but the workflow can be cumbersome, and I actually recently picked up a solution that I will use with my camera, so it should be a more efficient workflow. I'll let you know more about that soon, but there's no reason not to back up those images right alongside my images that started out as digital. Bill asks, have you done a video on how you organize all of your photos by dates, locations, styles, people, etc.? Do you have a separate log that you can refer to find photos? Well, I sort of have talked about it in the past, but here it is. I have a folder for my photography work, a folder for Snapchick, and a folder for personal. In the photography folder, the photography work folder, it's broken down by client. In the Snapchick folder, it's broken down by year and then date and project. In the personal folder, it's broken down by year and then by month and then by camera. I don't have a log, though I have tried to keep one in the past. I would definitely save time when I'm looking for old photos if I was able to keep that up. But that's it for today, everybody. Keep the questions and the comments on your backup processes coming in. I've learned a lot about backups, both from Synology and from all of you. And as my own process evolves, I'm sure I'll keep you updated along the way. Thanks for watching.